folks, it's Yannick Gwizdala. It's the Yannick Gwizdala podcast. We are taking a look at breaking down, getting inside the mind of, well, me a little bit for, because I just, the video from Scott's Bass Lessons just came out, my latest appearance on the channel, playing the music of Thundercat. Never thought that would be a thing. Never had that on my bingo card, but I did a day of filming for SBL earlier this year, back in January, and one of many videos actually that we shot, and the first one that's come out today from that session is, Here's for the First Time. So they played me a bunch of stuff. I highly encourage you, first of all, to just go check out the video. I'll link it in the description below or in the show notes, wherever you're seeing or hearing this. It was really fun. I had sort of no idea how it would turn out going into it, just, no real preconceptions, but also kind of understanding, there's kind of the potential for disaster on some level in terms of just the nature of being on the spot, hearing something, learning something, trying to come up really sort of kind of quickly, like an accelerated timeline for writing a part and being creative. And we all have good days, bad days. I was like, man, I wonder if it's a bad day, that would just suck for everyone. Luckily it was really, really fun. I felt like I had a really good day all round for all of the videos, most of the videos. If they put out this one video, we will have to talk about it at some point, but for the most part I had a really good day and had a lot of fun recording. Actually ended up doing 2 takes on this, as you'll see in the video. In fact, I'm not going to spoil anything. Go check out the video. There's a reason I did 2 takes, and it's a reason that apparently no one had ever brought up before on SBL, and no one had ever requested. So go check that out. It was a very interesting sort of, more on the psychological side of things, a little experiment at the end that we did that I thought was really worth doing, and I'm glad we did it. The song, oh man, I've forgotten what song it is. Is it called, I was about to say Funny Things, but I think it's Funky Things. Like, I know people are going to get in the comments over there and say, there's no way he'd never heard of Thundercat. Of course I've heard of, whoops. Get a little blast of that. What is it? What was the name of the song? Song. The Reveal. Oh no. I don't know what song it was. I'm going to find out, but you will all know this, even from that microsecond of audio that just came in here. God damn it! Why doesn't it say right in the show notes? The Reveal, the artist reveal. Where is it? I want to tell. It's Funky Things or Funny Thing, whatever it is. You guys all know the song. I didn't. And I talked, I referred to Thundercat as Steven in the video, and I realized I gave that kind of no context at all. Like, I don't know Thundercat, but I do know, or did know, and we're talking like 20 years ago, Stephen Bruner. Before Thundercat was a thing, Stephen and Ronald Bruner are just 2 incredible musicians here in LA. Ronald, Stephen Thundercat's brother, is a world-class drummer, and of course you all know Thundercat, Stephen Bruner, as the bassist and artist and sort of global, like, cultural musical icon that he has become. But 20 years ago that wasn't a thing, and I wonder how are we anywhere close to being the same age? Let's see. When will we? Oh man, he's younger. Damn, that makes so much sense as well. He's born in 84. I'm born in 78. So he's 6 years younger than me, almost to the week. He's October. I'm November. He's October 19th. I'm November 19th. So we're almost exactly 6 years apart. That does make a lot of sense. I didn't know that. So he would have been a little bit younger than me, which at this age I don't think makes that much of a difference. But at that age, 20 years ago, the difference between being 20 and being 26, I think is probably a bigger gap than those years are now. Anyway, yeah, so it's weird. It's with like Mono Neon as well. Like I don't know Mono Neon. I'm just checking his age actually. How old is Mono? He's 34, so he's even young. He's born 1990. Wow. Okay. But I know him as Dwayne. I knew him as a bass player when he was a lot younger. Holy crap, when would that have been? He would have been 19 or 20 as well when I first met him, and we did a a filming day together here in LA back in 2009. It's like 16 years ago. I haven't seen him since. So like, I find it hard to refer to these people by their stage names when I've never actually met them as Mononeon or as Thundercat. And I doubt actually either of them would even remember, because it's such a long time ago and we were all kind of young back then. But specifically with Steven, with Thundercat, there was a very specific hang, a hang that became way bigger and way more well-known, obviously with Kamasi Washington and Tony Austin and the Graves brothers, and what became that entire like sort of piano bar, Hollywood hang. That came a bit later, but before that, it was Nick's Martini. Was it Nick's Martini Lounge, Nick's Martini Bar? There was Guys. There were all these different spots in LA. Even long before I was living in Los Angeles, I would come out here on tour, and a lot of the people I was touring, we would come through LA, or we would rehearse in LA, and the tour would leave from here. So I'd spend time here. I'd spend weeks at a time going to all those sessions and doing those hangs. That's when I would have met Steven for the first time, like way back then, with when Donald Barrett was first here, when Steven and Ronald Bruner were coming on the scene, or actually on the scene already. They came on the scene super young, but that was the hang. So it's really a weird thing to call someone by a name that you don't actually know them by. Like, I've literally haven't seen Steven / Thundercat in probably 18, 19 years since those days of hanging out, maybe 15 years, I don't know, because there was a hang in LA at this studio that a mutual friend of ours, all of us, like the hang was Kamasi and Ronald Bruner and Steven Bruner and Hadrian Ford and the Graves brothers, and like all of these cats, Davey Nathan, Russell and Soroto, all these like kind of the similar-ish generation within 5 or 6 years, all hanging out super late night in LA whenever we were in town, jamming at the studio, sometimes recording. But this is 15 plus years ago, so I doubt Steven would even remember. And yeah, I just noticed that when I watched the final edit today, when the video came out on SBL, I was like, oh yeah, I'm sitting there talking about this guy Steven that literally everyone else on Earth knows just as Thundercat, right? So that was, I probably should have given that a little bit more context. And I'm kind of, as you'll see in the video, I'm really happy about the way the take came out of the song, even though I can't remember the funny things, funky things. God, that's gonna bug me like crazy. And I want to break down a few of the things I did. I heard the song. It was like, okay, I did kind of recognize the vocal, but I could not place who the singer was. And then I didn't make the connection between, this singer could also be a bass player. And boom. And when Sharon, Sharon, who did a fantastic job, really sort of made my life a lot more relaxed, a lot calmer, and a lot more enjoyable by the way she hosted the episode. Really very much appreciate her being there and doing an amazing job. When she finally revealed that it was Steven, was Thundercat, I was like, oh, right, everything sort of clicked into place. And then I became quite happy that I'd played not just a bass part, but a chordal idea as well. Because Steven's no stranger to all of these kind of voicings. He obviously plays that big 6-string, has some super interesting has some super interesting voicings and arpeggiated things. And on that track, when they finally revealed it, he was using like the envelope filter, which is sort of a signature, very like on-brand element of his sound. And I'm really glad I didn't sort of arrive at exactly that thing and did my own thing, but still, I think served the song without really knowing all of the context. So let's talk about chords and about when it's just G and C. It was just 1 and 4. That's kind of the melody as far as I remember. And that's a fragment of the melody at least. And we can use that as a bit of a guide in terms of what tools we all have available to us when it comes to playing some reharmonizations, when it comes to adding some chords that aren't necessarily there in the original track. And because there was no bass line in the track they were playing me, it gave me a lot of freedom to move the low end around and to change the emotion, change the harmony, and not extreme, but in a way that I was like, okay, this could work. Instead of going just from the 1 to the 4, for instance, back and forth, which is what the song does the whole way through. At one point, I just kind of walk down like that to the 6th chord through the 5 over the natural third. So the E minor here becomes a substitution for the C, both kind of functioning in a similar way. So that's 1 to 4. Now I'll go 1 to 6. And then 1 to 4. And that's a great maybe first step, like a first step to substitutions, to find chords that function similarly to each other and go there. Obviously, it has to make sense with the melody. It has to make sense within the context of where you're playing. I happen to be playing this Thundercat tune, 2 chords, so I had kind of a lot of freedom there. So let's take G, and it doesn't matter how your bass is strung. I happen to have E, A, D, G, C. Thundercat plays with a 6-string, B through C. I know a lot of people watching will play low B or play regular 4-string. Doesn't matter. The concept remains the same no matter what. And that is that you can go from G to C. That's just straight up standard 4-string tuning. You can play it up the octave and go down to the 4 chord. And we're just playing triads. But they're spread triads, so we take the middle note of the voicing, in this case the 3rd, and we put it up the octave to make a 10th. Now we'll do that 4-string range, but we'll go to the 6th chord. So E minor in the context of G. Another possible substitution for the C for the 4 chord could be the 2 chord. So instead of G to C, we can go G to A minor. This is all in standard 4-string tuning range. If I open up to my range, to the high C, maybe add an extra note in there. I've got the 9 in there now. It's kind of the classic Andy Summers Police chord voicing. That's just G going to E minor. And that's E minor with only the 9 as an added tension. You could get fancy and add the flat 7 as well. So that's G major with the added 9 going to E minor 9. Or just play tenths, just 2 notes. Just want to make you aware that there are some really accessible, simple options that everyone watching this video is completely capable of. You don't have to have the big chunky 5-note chords to make it sound musical. You can go with a 10th, with a triad. I love the richness of the spread triad. You hear this, you feel that vibrato and that motion and the slight clashing of the harmonics in the chord with the 3 notes a little more than you do with the 10th. It's a little more open with just 2 notes. But how crazy is this that we're literally talking about the 1 chord and the 4 chord, perhaps one of the most fundamental, simple, basic elements of popular music, yet there's all this stuff to be had from it. All of these voicings, which are totally possible no matter what kind of bass you play, and a really wide range of colors without having to step too far away from perhaps what you think you know. It's amazing that we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we really know, and that's just confidence. That's just being maybe exposed to the ideas like we're doing here very quickly between a 1 and a 4 chord in G, and then it's repetition. It's doing it over and over and over again to know that you have that option available anytime you want it. where the actual song or the actual written chords are just G and C. And then we can get into passing chords, and we can get into all kinds of other stuff, dominance, secondary dominance and stuff. If you're curious about really expanding chordal stuff in general, I have 2 volumes of it. I have 2 chordal harmony books, volume 1, volume 2. They are available. They're linked in the description below. These 2 are actually bundled digitally right now. So if you want to get both of them, Chordal Harmony Volume 2 actually focuses a little more on specific voicings for specific stringings, low B, high C, 4-string, 6-string, etc., etc. And Volume 1 has a lot of the fundamentals and the foundation that we're talking about here. So if you want to save a little money, get both books. They are bundled. They are linked below in the description of the video, and they will help you take the chord stuff and, most importantly, the confidence in the chord stuff to a better level, to a place where you can go out and be like, oh, I'm hearing this thing for the first time. I'm not going to be overwhelmed by it. Oh, it's a pop tune. They're 1 chord going to the 4 chord, and boy, I have all of these options suddenly. And I want to talk about one of the colors, one of the flavors I used in the SBL, in the Thundercat video, which was a transition chord, a way of creating some interest on the first chord of the sequence before we get to the 4 chord. And it's really, really simple, because G is our starting point, C is our destination. And I want something in between that sort of pushes and leads us into that C. And it's just another version of the 1 chord. We play the 1 chord in the root position with the G in the bass, and then we play the 1 chord with the 3rd, with the B in the bass. So a first inversion G chord, and then we get to our major chord. Here's a little trick I love putting in there. It's not really a trick, it's just conventional harmony. It's when you get from the 1 to your 4 chord, like we've been doing for the past 10 minutes, just make that 4 chord minor. And if you really want to put some flavor in there, make it, put an A natural, put a 6th in there, a natural 6th instead of the 5th. So again, so many options with just one simple change, going from major to minor. And instead of straight minor triad with the 5th in the middle, try the 6th. In this case, it's A natural on C minor. So when we put that in context, we can play kind of play it straight, G, G first inversion to C major, and this time we'll add the C minor, and maybe we'll walk down to finish off the phrase, and suddenly we've actually got a whole other song going on here. Now the 4 minor thing perhaps wasn't as appropriate on the Thundercat tune, because the melody sort of dictated where things were going. There was no E flat in there, for instance. They were all E naturals, because we are kind of diatonic to G major. The C minor thing is just, you'll hear that in Beatles, you'll hear that in like tons of great songwriting, tons of great pop songwriting throughout the years. And, well, I guess we were in for a penny, in for a pound. Why not give you a ton more information? I'm thinking of stuff like directly from this book. It's crazy that the arc in which I'm explaining it sort of naturally without thinking about it is the arc that I put in the book. That's always nice all of these years later. It's 8 years later since we did that book, to know that it still holds up. When we get to that 4 minor, but with the natural 6, if you move that around in minor thirds, so C, A, F sharp, or E flat, you move it around a diminished arpeggio, it becomes a type of 5 chord. If you put D, we're in G major here, so if you put D, our dominant chord, our 5 chord, which you know is going to 1, what naturally feels like the D 5 chord, It's going to 1. The fact that you have this other voicing, which sort of naked as we've been doing it, is 4 minor 6th. When you move that in minor thirds, it contains all the notes of a dominant chord with the flat 9 tension. So again, although that definitely wasn't appropriate for the recording, for the filming, for the Thundercat tune, it's just yet another option available to you, another extension of your vocabulary when you're looking to create tension and to release it, or be creative when you're improvising. Being creative when you're improvising doesn't have to mean playing 8th note lines. You know, I'm a massive fan of creating density, sparsity, tension, and release with chords. And really telling a story with chord voicings. And there are little fragments, little melodic fragments that help me lead from one chord to another. That's often known as voice leading. And I'm trying to be as melodic as possible with that. One thing I try and stick to is not really moving more than a half step or a whole step in terms of the top note of the chord. Sometimes that's not possible, but you know, like here I do want to drop down. Maybe I put a line between those two melody nodes. But I'm really trying to keep that top note of the chords when I'm moving and transitioning and creating a story. I'm trying to keep that pretty tight, pretty close, so there aren't any sort of real jarring shifts in harmony. And we are obviously now way kind of into the weeds on all of this stuff. We're getting away from the Thundercat example a little bit. And I want to get back to that and give you some more examples of how moving around a very, very simple set of chord changes can be so much more than just G and C. We've already talked about the transition from the 1 chord to the 4 chord by adding an inversion, so just G first, G in the root position, G first inversion, C in the root position. And why not add another version of C? We could go up to the first inversion of C. Our destination is to get back to G, so why not add this chord? This is a new one. This is D over F sharp. So exactly the same concept. These are only triads and inversions of triads. So we're taking our 5 chord in the key of G. That's our 5 chord is D. And we're just playing the first inversion. So we put the major third in the bottom. In the middle of the voicing, I've got the root, D. And on the top, I've got A, the 5th. And that leads us beautifully up to G. In exactly the same way, G led us to C. So we can think of our 1 chord being our home. Like this is it. That's it. That's 1. That's where we're coming back to every time for the purpose of this exercise. But when we play this next chord, this first inversion, I'm kind of feeling like this is more of it's a transitional chord, and I'm feeling it more as a 5 chord. G, instead of being 1, now becomes the 5 of our destination. So we're treating this as a 5, G going to C. Now we want to get back to our original G, our original home, and we do again 5 to 1. D over F sharp to G. Let's get the computer back up here so I can see what's going on. So just as an exercise to cycle around, just go 1. It's kind of 1 1 4 5 1, and it's just following exactly what we've been doing. 1 first inversion, 4 5 first inversion, 1, and just run that sequence in all keys. And we're going to do the same thing. Let's go up in 4s. Now we do that in F. The reverb is pretty extreme there, sorry. In B flat, and I have the range because I have the high C, but let's do that in 4-string range. Totally doable. Now E flat. We're going to A flat. And whenever you have the chance, if you have the range, do it up the octave as well. I was doing some parallel harmony stuff. That's a whole other lesson. We'll get to that another time. But as you can see, it's a pretty simple exercise, only involving 2, 3, 4, only involving 4 chords, really only involving 3, because it's 1, 4, and 5, just inversions, different inversions. And that's a great place to start. Then add in the minor thing we talked about on the 4, then add in the descending, going to E. You can get into so many other places as well, popular cadences. So that's flat 6, E flat to flat 7 to 1. And no reason why you can't just insert another inversion on any of those. So flat 6. That wasn't the most elegant, but I like that one a lot. So instead of just E flat to F to G in their root position coming home, how about second inversion of E flat? It's still E flat to F to G, just different inversions. Second inversion of E flat, first inversion of F, first inversion of G, root position of G, sorry. That's still G, that's still home, it's just in its first inversion this time. We're sneaking in our D over F sharp, sneaking in a little 5 before we get to the 1, and it's the ability to sneak in those things as and when you hear them, most importantly, which is normally when it's the most musical. And when your performance is the most honest, and it's drilling it over and over and over and over again like this, that is just, it's kind of priceless, I gotta say. That's a lot of chords, that's a lot of information for one episode. There's a ton of other stuff to catch up on. New guests coming on the podcast. Cannot wait for this. I start the Vital Information East Coast Tour next week. We start in, I want to say, Portsmouth, New Hampshire on the 19th of June. Then we're 3 nights at Birdland. Then we play New York. Then we go into the studio to cut a new record, all kinds of stuff. But while I'm in New York, I have 2 very special guests in person. Film crew, venue has been located and hired, and everyone's in place. People are coming into the city, or some people are already there. Going to have Adam Neely on the channel in person. We've actually never met before, so I'm really excited to have a proper sit down in-person interview that hopefully looks nice as well, working with a new videographer in New York. And sort of present some questions there. And if you made it this far in the podcast, get in the comments. What are we going to put? We're going to put Is there? Well, here's the other thing, because the second guest, I'm doing 2 interviews back to back, and let's see. Do we have? Is there a playing card emoji? There isn't. But you know what? Let's put the ace of. I like the ace of clubs, actually. Let's put the ace of clubs emoji. That's going to look terrible in the black background right there. Let's change that. Let's put the diamond emoji right there for the ace of diamonds. Put it in your comment below. That'll signify that I will see it, I'll heart it, and if you have a question, I'll answer it. Most important to me, if you don't mind, is to drop some questions for Adam in the comments below. If you made it that far, here's the payoff for being a super fan and a coffee drinker and getting all the way through the episode. What do you want to hear Adam talk about? Or what do you want to hear Adam and I discuss together? Perhaps there's something you'd like 2 potentially different opinions on. I don't know. I'm doing my research and preparing what I think is going to be at least an interesting conversation for me and hopefully for you as the listener, as the watcher, the viewer. The next day, have something like super special, super different. That's where the whole card and magic theme is going on. I'm going to interview Jason Ledany, who is, I don't know, top 5 in the world, card mechanics, card magicians, prestidigitation art, however you want to label it. I actually can't wait to talk to him about how he likes to label it. A lot of his stuff is gambling related. But he started out life in his career as a touring musician, as a piano player. And I've been a fan for a very long time of his. But as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, I want to talk about parallels of work. Card magic is something I've been really passionate about for a very long time, through Jojo Mayer, through, touring so much with Jojo, and Jojo being a master magician himself. And I've just been working the cards for the last, 17, 18 years and learning all about it. Very passionate about it. I want to talk to Jason about process and about what it takes for a magician who has a background in music, touring the world. Really not just like, I played a few bar gigs, but like really legit touring the world and playing arenas and doing that thing and then transitioning to something completely different. I want to talk about the parallels of work and of workflow and of process and of practice and what it takes to get those fine motor skills to the place where you are just supremely confident every time you step out on your stage, whether that's for us as musicians on stage in clubs and bars and arenas and stadiums all over the world, or for him in theaters and in the Magic Castle or private, wherever it is he's performing and I'm guessing improvising at certain points, and the things that go right and the things that go wrong and how you recover from them in the moment. Very interested to talk to him about that. Those are my 2 interviews coming up, literally happening 12 days from now, 10 days from now. Can't wait. Get in the comments below if you have questions for either of those people. Go check out Jason Ledany. It's Card Magic by Jason. That should prep you. He has a very specific persona as well. But I've also watched a bunch of interviews with him, and the actual Jason Ledany versus the character he plays in his show is quite an interesting dynamic. So much to talk about, so much I hope to bring all of you. Last thing is there are a few Mystery to Me's left, the vinyls here from the short run I did. I'm actually going to bring these on the road. So if you're coming to a Vital Information show in the next few weeks on the East Coast, I'll have some vinyl, at least in the beginning, before they sell out. And they're linked below in the description of the video if you want to check them out. Like I said before, Chordal Harmony Volume 1 and Volume 2 currently bundled together for a little bit of a discount. Everything is linked below. Really appreciate you spending some of your insanely precious time hanging out with me, talking about music, talking about Stephen Bruner, Thundercat, SBL. Go check out that video. It was really fun to do. We did a bunch more, so they'll be coming out over the course of this year, I'm sure. And that's it. I'll see you all later.